Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala syarafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, with the grace, mercy and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we continue our da'wah on life coach training program from Positive Islamic Psychology Center and Khalifa Education Foundation. And we are giving you ideas and training in Islamic motivation, coaching, mentoring, counseling, and vibrant way of life in the 21st century. Inshallah, once you understand the fullness of Islamic Sharia and the fullness of Islamic psychology. Alright, and it is very important that I am giving this message, this recurrent message, that humanity is at a knife edge. We are coming to either a full destruction of this modern civilization, which I have given you the idea because of the ontological basis of materialism as a basis of life and a basis of everything, the basis of progress, the basis of living, the basis of belief system, and so on. So we are at the life age now. Because of materialism for the last 300 years, we are actually getting into a situation where this destruction of this human civilization is very, very near. Alright, because this dominant 300 years of worldview of materialism brings about a destruction. Alright, so it could be the last call now, because as I mentioned to you in the various videos in the past, the last call is basically Allah has given this opportunity for this civilization to change, to take its course, to move away from the destructive paradigm of greed, of oppression, of injustice, of just treating this Mother Earth or this good earth as a garbage dump. So what we do now, because we are treating this as a nothing, we are just pumping the CO2 level at such a high rate that temperature is rising, and when temperature rise, species of insects and bacteria, even viruses, coral reef will start dying. Now we are in the process of the sixth mass extinction, and the heat sink that we have pumped into this earth because of the fossil fuel industry for the last 150 years will take its own course. How severe, how bad it is, Wallahu alam, only Allah knows. But if you read all the material by the climate scientists, more than 25,000 of them, and the summary report is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the consequence is dire. Now we have the highest temperature ever, 3 degrees globally, just this August. So very, very high. Alright, so if that happened, then many species cannot adapt, and when they cannot adapt, they will die. Many plants cannot adapt when there is extreme heat and extreme drought and extreme cold. When that happens, then we will have a mass extinction of species and a mass extinction of our food source. So we will have a mass extinction of humanity, like it or not. Where are we going to get our food when the temperature rises 4 degrees? Because at 4 degrees, it will be almost like a end of civilization. All right, at 6 degrees, we will be gone. At 8 degrees, everything is gone. But the heat sink that we have put into this CO2 into this earth, and the heat absorbed per kilowatt hour in the surface of this earth has gone beyond the threshold. That is my belief, and that is the belief of a lot of climate scientists. So this ongoing saga of the destruction of our own human civilization, according to IPCC, we have 10 years. Hopefully that they are right, but according to some scientists, we have only about 2 years. So whichever is their view, this is the last call. So at this moment, critical moment in human history, we must bring humanity away from the materialism to idealism. Alright, so if we have non-Muslims who are now perpetuating the idea of idealism in terms of that this world is a conscious world, even it is panpsychism or is a pantheism, whatever is the ideological framework, alright, we must bring about for them to understand the mind of God finally, because in Islam everything is coming back to the nature of the creator who created this universe, and there must be a purpose and meaning in life. So if they move into this, then we will have almost similar ideas, all right? Even though our definition of Allah or God will be slightly different. They have this idea of the mind of the, for example, like a lot of this group of people, they use the word, okay, conscious or the cosmic mind, or the mind at large, the mind at large. They have this form here, they have this absurdity to call God. But some of them are now calling the mind of God. Alhamdulillah, that's good. When you talk about the mind of God, you talk about absolute consciousness, then we can talk about why, from the perspective of revelation, why we are here. Because if you talk the mind of God, you talk about existence, that all existence is, even material things, is coming from the realm of mental or the realm of consciousness. So consciousness is a basic building block of our existence. For example, like panpsychism, consciousness is like space-time. So consciousness plus space-time is the building block of our existence in terms of the material things that we see. Okay, fair enough. That is the panpsychism view of building blocks, like Lego, that you put this plus this plus this, then you have a conscious human being. Okay, but that doesn't solve the hard problem in totality, because you must have, if you say that this building block, this Lego block, who is the one who put this building block together? So then you have to go back to, again, you got to go back to the cosmic mind, or the cosmic consciousness, or the absolute consciousness, or the mind at large, or whatever terms of definition, because then you have to acknowledge there is a supreme. You do not want to use the word being supreme consciousness, but beyond supreme, because consciousness is an attributive aspect. That's why in Islam, ilmu kalam and the metaphysics of Islam, later on I'll go into quite very detail into this. For example, like our ilmu kalam, all right, in this prolegomena to the metaphysics of Islam by Said Naqib Al-Atas. Okay, he is an old man now, alhamdulillah, he's still alive. But his worldview is a very traditional worldview, which he's extracted and he's tried to combine it with modern understanding of consciousness. All right. So I will go through this detail. Inshallah, dissect one by one, chapter by chapter, part by part, as much as I can, to go into our book, that Islam, Heart of Love, because he gives a very succinct, very comprehensive worldview that can actually, in terms of understanding, overcome idealism. So idealism is very close to our Ahli Sunnah wal Jama'ah worldview, but as I say, it depends what variant of idealism that they are bringing, the sect or sub ideas of idealism, which I'm also going to elaborate as we go along. But what is important is that we have this great scholar, alhamdulillah, his work is 30 years ago, all right, he's an old man now, but who is carrying his work, all right, who is carrying up the understanding of the metaphysics of Islam vis-a-vis this 21st century in terms of the last call, in terms of our human civilization? What would be the role of Muslims in this situation? Why God created us, and what are the situation in which we can go about in line with the understanding of the nature of why we existed. All right, so consciousness will always bring to this question of why we exist, and in Islam we have the answer. So inshallah, in our video and book, inshallah, Islam, Heart of Love, will bring about that idea. Also from my teacher, Maulavi Babu Sahib, I studied him, and his book on the tenets of Islam, he gives the whole range of the metaphysics understanding vis-a-vis the ontological or using the epistemology of Al-Sharat and Mutridi, and he used them as a basis. A very well-known book that is used in all madrasas, that is Kitabul Jawharul Tauhid by Imam Burhanuddin Al-Lakhani. All right, so this is his taking the verses from the words of Imam Lakhani. He explained it from the perspective of contemporary understanding of how we are going to understand the metaphysics of Islam from that perspective. So we have these two, and I've mentioned to you before he passed on, my teacher has passed on, he has passed on, and so may Allah be pleased with him, for all these great people, those who have passed on, and may we sadaqah Fatihah for them. My own mentor and friend, Professor Muhammad Mahdi Jenkins, he also has passed on. All right, his work is on psychology because he is the protege of B.F. Skinner, the father of modern behavioral psychology. He was the protege, and he brought about this model about the nature of consciousness long ago in the 60s. But that was rejected by the behavioralists at that time, because behavioralists, as you know, they take the materialist idea. Anything about consciousness, anything about nature of self beyond the physical realm is rejected. So he was, his story is very colorful. He was rejected, left his lectureship in the university, became a hippie, all right, joined a Buddhist group, then joined Hindu group, and then left all those groups and searched the meaning of truth, and finally became a Muslim and developed the Khalifa method and post-Islamic psychology as a way forward for the Ummah to face the challenges of the 21st century. So I'm trying to fuse these three because Alhamdulillah, Allah has given me good health. I do not know how long I'm going to live, but at least if I can record this idea of how we can bring about the Ummah towards a beautiful Ummah. And there are many brothers and sisters who are moving in the same direction. I would like you all to go through, for example, Professor Khalid Abul Fadil from UCLA, America, The Search for Beauty and the Beauty and Reason in Islam. All right, so he has written many books, and if you look at his book, it is his sense of responsibility to bring the Ummah towards love, beauty, compassion, mercy, which is the deen of Islam. But we have lost our way. We have gone into sectarianism, we have gone into extremism, we have gone into neo-slavery, we have gone into all kind of nonsense. And we have gone into Salafism, we have gone into so many of these things that is actually bringing us to the edge of our own disaster in terms of a belief system. What about our younger people? Our children, our grandchildren, how they will look at us? Would they look at us as extremists? Or would you look at us with the eye of mercy, of love, of compassion, of beauty, of peace? So we have to reclaim that position, and I recommend, all right, Khalid Abdul Fadil, Reasoning with God. That is his book. This is his website. You can go to his website, all right. That is searchforbeauty.org, www.searchforbeauty.org. There's a lot of material, and that is the kind of Islamic movement that we need to bring about, to shift in this very critical period of humanity. The last call for humanity is also the last call for the Ummah. We have no time to talk about Talibanization or ISIS and all this. We have no time for that. This is a critical period for which we have to reclaim our soul. All right? What if Allah does not permit this civilization to continue in 30 years? Then within 30 years, then everything will fall apart. The civilization that you know, the handphone that you know, the internet that you know will all fall apart because there's no food. Billions of people will be migrating. Where? Sea level will be rising. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to run? We have nowhere to run but to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if that happens, if we prepare ourselves now, if that calamity is going to be a small, qiyamah, we have to go through it because of the evil that we have done, the fasad that we have, the corruption that we have done on earth, the destruction that we have done on earth are all un-Islamic. This is in the Quran, and I'll give you more details of that as I develop this Islam Heart of Love of how we can shift from that destructive way of life to a balanced, integrated way of life based on Iman, Islam and Ihsan, based on love, based on beauty, based on realization of the grandeur of the goodness that Allah has given us and living in goodness, knowing our duty, because we have one whole chapter on stewardship in our post-Islamic psychology, because that's the only way to change the mindset of the Ummah. The psychology of the Ummah must be a psychology of stewardship, the psychology of being the Caliph of Allah. and expressing and living the Khalifahood onto ourselves. Always knowing the very fundamental idea of being the Caliph of Allah, our great scholars have mentioned, and we have distilled it into three major ideas, that if we follow that, then you follow the deen. Basically is always strive to make yourself good. That means ourselves, our family, the closest, then help others to be good. That means the society is good, and make this world good, clean and beautiful. Are we doing that, or are we destroying this earth, pumping more CO2 into this earth, or are we planting more trees? So the easiest thing we can do is maybe plant more trees, do good things, do good deeds. Hopefully we can avert this climate disaster and avert the destruction of the civilization that we know, that we can move from this so-called modern civilization to a new postmodern holistic civilization based on revelation, or if they are not going to revelation, at least based on idealism and comprehensive way in which we can help each other to make this world a better place for all living creatures and all resources on this earth, and most important, to live as brothers and sisters, as human beings, in beauty, in love, in mercy, in compassion, knowing and striving to fulfill our role until we return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that we are His Khalifa on this earth, always striving to make ourselves good, helping others to be good, and making the world good, inshallah.